York Orkin, licensed clinical social worker and acclaimed speaker, consultant, and author known as the Stress Doc. Today, we're dealing with part 3 of my video series on stress resilience and burnout prevention. The 6 R's of burnout prevention and recovery is really based on my own personal recovery experience from doctoral studies burnout. I was trying to do a very creative project, but alas, a little bit off the academic wall. See, I was trying to turn a mystical experience in psychoanalysis into a conventional doctoral dissertation. You see, I told you it was a little bit off the academic wall. Now, what was really driving me? My motivation, of course, sure, some creative energy, but it really was a long-standing feeling of failure and underachievement in public school, in high school, and in college. So what was my desire? To do something that was grand, alas, probably more grandiose, and to prove myself once and for all as this academic star. What was the effect? Basically, after all those years, when academic flash dancing whirled to a burnout tango, and I had to drop out. There were more consequences than just dropping out of the doctoral program. Frankly, there were both medical and psychological consequences. I mean, the medical. Under that stress, I contracted a severe inner ear virus. And it wasn't just me that was feeling dizzy. Literally, the ceiling was spinning. I mean, there were days, if I wanted to go from the bedroom to the kitchen, I had to crawl on the floor. And the psychological consequences, well, once again I had failed. That feeling of being a failure. And now, also scary, what was going to happen next? Where do I go from here? But fortunately, there was a silver lining. I became an expert on stress and burnout. And what I've come to realize is that the steps that I kind of developed on the fly many years ago for my own personal burnout recovery are the steps that I'm going to share with you today. And these steps, this model, has instructed and inspired many thousands of people. Here it is, the 6 R's of burnout prevention and recovery. Number 1, running. Get moving with 20 to 40 minutes of exercise, such as jogging, brisk walking, cycling, or swimming. Get those outlook-enhancing endorphins pumping. The chemical influx helps slow a racing mind and helps lift a sluggish mood. When under stress and everything feels up in the air, nothing better than feeling grounded and biochemically calmed. My brisk 20 to 30 minute walk provides a beginning and end point for a tangible sense of accomplishment and control. The couch potato has risen. Your new routine becomes a successful ritual for rebuilding confidence and hope. It's the tangible first step fueling burnout recovery. And to be perfectly honest, I may not always like to exercise, but I certainly enjoy feeling virtuous. Number 2, reading. Turn to humorous novels or cartoon books to add some absurdity, if not levity, to your perspective. It's important to bring that atrophied funny bone back to life. Maybe catch a favorite sitcom. Let some lightness illuminate your dark and heavy mood and mindset. Hearty laughter also releases endorphins, turning your body into a big vibrator, giving vital organs a brief but vigorous internal massage. For me, after some healing humor, for example, devouring Portnoy's complaint, came serious study. I began reading up on burnout, or I tried to. Back in the early 80s, there wasn't much written on the subject. This dearth of information motivated me to dig further and conceptually develop my own burnout perspective. See part 2 of this video series for the 4 stages of burnout. And the 2-step reading process reminds me of a wise stress doc aphorism. People, including yours truly, are less defensive and more open to a serious message that's gift-wrapped with humor. 3. Retreating. Take time to reflect on this ego and identity shattering encounter and answer some big existential questions. For example, how and why did I get into this burnout crisis in the first place? How did long-standing feelings of unworthiness and some obsessive, grandiose thinking contribute to my demise as a doctoral student? At the same time, what have I newly discovered? What are my realistic skills, gifts, and talents? What are my logical and psychological, emotional and educational learning gaps? And most important, what is my calling? The blank canvas is scary. Where am I heading? The blank canvas is exciting. Who knows where I may roam? How will I explore and test myself anew? To paraphrase poet Walt Whitman, follow the open road and discover or recover your soul. Number 4, writing. Research indicates that taking the time to express and analyze your emotions through writing provides a stress-relieving anchor in a stormy, troubled sea. Reflective writing or journaling can also be a source of self-discovery, a tool for your healing, understanding, and action. Personally, writing helps give meaning, especially to trials and traumas, tragedies and triumphs. In addition to documentation, all manner of creative expression can purposefully and playfully transform perception of the experience. I'm now wrestling that inner emotional demon with my head while generating expanded consciousness and designing heartfelt imagery. What had me wounded now evokes a sense of wonder. Time to celebrate that hard-earned, sadder yet wiser self-awareness. Writing gives me something to show for my efforts. Definitely some hard-scrabble wisdom to share with others. And P.S., I also love reading and rereading my creative words, like endlessly gazing at those baby pictures. You know the old expression, vanity, thy name is Gorkin. 5. Relating. Most, if not all, of the above R's often involve solitary pursuit, necessary early steps in mind-body recovery. Of course, not absolutely. For example, you may have a trusted exercise buddy, someone who likes to walk and likes get real talk. Not surprisingly, after a period of burnout, the sense of shame and loss, the exhaustion, the feelings of failure, can compel retreating into a shell. In fact, I once titled a short radio piece as follows: Recovering from Burnout, Breaking Out of a Hell of a Shell, or Don't Feel Too Sorry for Humpty Dumpty, He Needed to Hit Bottom. And despite the fact that Humpty's rescue left something to be desired, let's not do one-off generalization. One of the blessings of hitting bottom is finally realizing that, by yourself, you likely can't put the broken pieces and emotions back together again. Staying with the Humpty Dumpty metaphor, let's assume that your shell is not literal but psychological, and you do reach out to a trusted person, professional, and/or support group who understands your pain and helplessness. You've taken a critical step in the healing process. Now you are not alone, but are learning from others' experiences, defects and defeats, trials and triumphs. Sharing with others affirms one's common and uncommon, imperfect yet precious humanity. While not predictable or pre-scheduled, if authentically walking this recovery talk, over time you will begin to glean the wisdom of the words of French-Algerian Nobel Prize-winning author Albert Camus. Once we have accepted the fact of loss, we understand that the loved one, sometimes even an outmoded version of ourselves, obstructed a whole corner of the possible, pure now as a sky washed by rain. Let me say that again. Once we have accepted the fact of loss, we understand that the loved one obstructed a whole corner of the possible, pure now as a sky washed by rain. 6. Risk-taking. This recovery is not simply rejuvenation of energy and ego, though both are foundational. Also vital, one has been rebuilding an array of cerebral and especially emotional head and heart muscles. Whether aware or not, one has been preparing to knock on, if not beat down, those proverbial doors again. And the most wondrous aspect, one is likely ready to explore different portals and ports of entry. One of the startling things about experiencing a deep grief process is that it stirs up memories and feelings that have been in hibernation, sometimes for years and years. And while this eruption may be confusing, if not downright scary, it really is an opportunity for courageous action to further clean old wounds. While disorienting, past emotional memories and pain resurfacing in the present may still seem uncomfortably familiar. However, there's a critical difference between past and present. Now, having the head, heart, and guts to grieve means you are in a different place than when those early fears were overwhelming or feelings had to be avoided or bottled up. And especially if you are going through the grief rejuvenation process with a knowledgeable and trusted guide or group, that emerging corner of the possible invites new exploration and new learning curves. You even begin to appreciate the growth possibilities in trial and error. The Stress Doc's risk-taking mantra: learn to fail or fail to learn. Amen and women to that. Remember, errors of judgment or design rarely consign one to incompetence. They more likely reveal inexperience or immaturity, perhaps even boldness. Our so-called failures can be channeled as guiding streams, sometimes raging rivers of opportunity and experience, humbling though they may be, that ultimately enrich, widen, and deepen the risk-taking passage. If we can just immerse ourselves in these unpredictably roiling, though ultimately rejuvenating waters. And next time, part 4, I'll introduce the stress resiliency and cognitive agility formula of natural speed. Actually, you will have a chance to take the Natural Speed Survey. This is Mark Orkin, the Stress Doc. Just remember, practice safe stress.